Hi, welcome to Both Sides of the Desk. I'm Charlie Charlton, and each week we have one boss, one employee to talk work culture. Why? Well, as a journalist, I host a lot of business conferences, and it is the one subject that always comes up. How do we create and keep happy, high-performing teams? So to give the honest, sometimes awkward answers to that, we have Leighton, a leading software development agency based here at Newcastle Helix. On one side of the desk, we have Leighton's CEO, James Bunting. And on the other side of the desk, we have senior developer with Leighton, Tom Shanan. Now, my idea of having this type of discussion was, frankly, poo-pooed by a lot of people, because they said that a CEO is only going to put up a yes man to have this discussion. But you described Tom as pretty much the opposite of that.
Not quite a no man, but...
You said that he gives feedback freely and unprompted.
He's not shy to share his thoughts, whether they're good or challenging. So yeah, absolutely not a yes man.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would pretty much agree with that. I feel like feedback is... I mean, if my employer didn't value my feedback, then I probably shouldn't be there.
I would agree. I mean, we do talk at Leighton that feedback's a gift, and it's Tom's gift to give me the feedback, and it's our gift, gift to receive it.
And it's a two-way conversation. Whereas in a lot of places, there are people who just, at the top of a business, will cascade that message or use whatever terminology they want to, and that's where it stops. Yeah. It's that kind of dictatorial setup.
Yeah. I very firmly believe that everybody's got a choice. I've got a choice where I work, Tom's got a choice where he works. Tom made a choice to join us at the start, and we chose to offer Tom a role because we wanted his feedback and we valued his skills. And Tom's got a choice now, 2-3 years on, where he goes, and I still value his feedback and still value his skills. So if I didn't listen, if we didn't listen as an organisation, we wouldn't be making the best choices for ourselves, and we wouldn't be driving the business forward, because there undoubtedly is some good stuff that comes out of Tom and the rest of the team. Not saying all of it's right, but that's why we choose to listen or not. Not long after you joined, relatively soon, you were headhunted by somebody else, which you... You threw the gauntlet down to your relatively new employers to say, look, somebody's after me.
Yeah, I think they caught me at an interesting time. I was actually quite happy at Leighton. I think it was 9 months in, I was quite happy at Leighton. I was doing work that I was proud of. I had colleagues that I really enjoyed working with. In fact, the whole environment was quite new to what I was used to before, where I was more of a sole software engineer. Suddenly I was part of a team and a company that appreciates me and everything. But then an offer came through and offered me some sort of career progression, and really challenged me to think about where I want to see myself in 5 years and what I want to do. And they offered me all these new prospects, but I had already gained a sense of loyalty to Leighton and appreciation for the company. I had to see what James had to say to these prospects, and whether he can convince me to stay.
So what did you ask for?
I told him that I'm planning to take leave. I really want to take leave for a really long time. That I mentioned this to...
Wait. You wanted to take leave, and you'd wanted to do it for some time. But you'd only been at the company 9 months.
I had been planning to go travel in Asia for like a good chunk of a year. But I've been planning that since before COVID, and obviously that had trickled down the timeline, and found myself in Leighton by that time, and so my employer would have had to either agree to let me have that time away, or I would simply just find a new employer when I'm back.
Even the way you're talking about that, you know that was... It could be regarded by other people as quite cheeky.
Yeah.
You've probably heard this phrase now, but in Newcastle we have a phrase, shy bairns getting out, and that's probably what you're talking about.
Yeah, there we go.
I mean, were you surprised? Here's a guy who you've taken on 9 months in. Yes, he's headhunted, but he's asking for... Did you ask for more money as well?
I did, yeah.
OK, so he's asked for more money. He's asked for mentorship from you as CEO.
He's asked for project development, but also time out. He wants to leave.
See, when you play it back like that, I can see why you might be why you might be surprised. I think my take is I don't remember being particularly surprised, and we work really hard at Leighton to try and attract great people to work with us, and because ultimately they're going to work with our customers. And I've been doing, I guess, this job or other jobs for long enough to know that great people present challenges to kind of management and leadership, because they want more, they want progression, they want to grow themselves. So in lots of senses, I don't think I will have been surprised, because we've gone and recruited Tom for being what we perceive as a great person, and therefore these challenges are always going to come further down the line. And what I would say is that I remember distinctly that Tom approached everything in what I would say was a professional, a good way to approach it. So it never felt like a gun was held to our head. It never felt like it was I wouldn't really describe it as a negotiation. It was, this is where I'm at. These are the things that are important to me. It now happens I might be able to get some of these things somewhere else. Is there anything you can do? And we work really hard to find those great people, as I've said, so we absolutely want to retain them when we can. And all of the things that Tom asked for, from my memory, were things that were really in our gift to give. So, yes, as Tom says, it does take a little bit of time to move somebody from one project to another, but that is something that we can do. Mentorship was just asking for some of my time. That's something that I can do. Even the kind of the comment on, I've been offered this much somewhere else, was something that was within our gift. We could go and do some market research ourselves. I think after that we moved to offering twice yearly salary reviews to make sure that our own salary data was pretty up to date when we were talking to colleagues. So again, it was in our gift. It was something that we could do. It was something that we were comfortable to do.
Is it about money at the end of it? Because it costs so much to recruit people that once you find the person you want, you don't want to have to go through that all again.
From my perspective, it's not about the money. I do take that point completely. We will only ever pay what we believe somebody is worth to our business. And I know that they'll always be worth more to somebody else's business, or there will always be bigger businesses than ours who can afford to pay them more. So it's absolutely not just about the money from my perspective. We want to kind of look after the colleague. We want them to, ultimately we talk about making them the best version of themselves. That's something that we think we can achieve as a kind of a smaller organisation that perhaps a larger organisation can't. I'm sure Tom will tell you the money's really important, because it is from a personal perspective, but I think there's probably other things that are important as well.
Oh, 100%. Look, for me, the money was important up to the point that I feel I'm not stretching my personal budget every month. And I feel like that's where I am now. So I think I challenged my wage later down. I think maybe 7 months later or something, we challenged the wage again, or maybe it was early, I can't remember now.
You've done it that many times.
Somewhere along the line. I mean, I've challenged them a lot with my wage around the time they started doing the reviews. But for me, it was about to get to the point where I'm comfortable with my wage enough that I don't have to keep looking to upgrade, to get the next level. And I think that's where I am now. And but for me, ever since I was starting as a web developer, being in a company where I feel like I'm doing something important, where I'm being appreciated, where I have a lot to contribute, and generally just feels nice to work, to get up in the morning to do something. I think that was my ultimate goal, my personal. I don't know, there's a lot of people, I guess, out there who do chase, the wage, yeah, the mega bucks, that's good. And that's all they're chasing, that's all they want. I think I was convinced that money isn't everything, and being able to come home at the end of the day having feel accomplished and done something, contributed, changed something, affected people, I think that's much more wholesome, accomplishment than extra few pounds in your pocket.
It's that job satisfaction, so everything in the round. Geographical spread, so it used to generally just be London waiting.
Yep.
But now we've got all these pockets across the UK and beyond where companies, yours will definitely be one of them because of the nature of your work, are having to make a decision about how much they pay people who are based in a certain area. How do you do it at Leighton?
I'll tell you how we do it. I'll tell you how we do it now. We've kind of been on a journey to get to this kind of point. So, one thing, I guess, in terms of kind of background, if customers want our colleagues on site, which doesn't happen very often, but does happen sometimes, we've got two kind of different rate cards with our customers. So we have a kind of a London South East rate card and a UK kind of rate card. And what that means is that if the customer wants a colleague in a London office, they're going to be paying the kind of the London South East rate card. If they want them somewhere else, they pay the UK rate card. So we now do salary benchmarking across those two geographies, basically. We have a UK salary banding and a London salary banding, and that's how we do it. So we will pay somebody, if they're in Newcastle, we pay them on the UK salary banding. If they're based and live in Shoreditch in London, we pay them on the kind of the London salary banding. And then we're able to mirror that to our customer rate cards. So in effect, we make the same amount of money, whether they're UK or London based. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm surprised there aren't any more bands.
Yeah, we have had more bands. So historically we had a UK band, we had a London and South East band, and we had a North East band. And what we've tried to do is to move to the two, because ultimately what we wanted to try and do is pay people in the North East more money. Actually, they're at least as valuable to us as the kind of the rest of the team. How do we use this as an opportunity to kind of get kind of more salary, more salary parity?
Because societally, that was an issue, I think, for the North East as a region. People were wondering, are you just coming for me because I'm cheap labour, rather than having unique qualities and all the rest of it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we've kind of, what we found in our research is that there are other cities that you could class as being in a similar kind of position to Newcastle, as an example. But actually, in our previous model, we would be paying a colleague in that city more. So this gives us a chance to kind of reward our North East colleagues.
So that means Tom is getting paid more than one of his colleagues at the same level, just because he lives in London?
Yes, if the colleague doesn't live in London, then Tom is getting paid more. My kind of rationale for that is that we're able to charge the customer more for Tom, because Tom's going to be potentially going into a London-based office, whereas our colleague in Newcastle wouldn't be going into that London-based office.
What do you think, Tom?
Oof. I think you don't want that on tape, is what I think. I think, it's advantageous to me, certainly. I think I do pay higher rents and everything living in London. But thinking about it outside of me for a second, if I'm not required in the office, there's actually no reason why you should be paying me more than someone in Newcastle. It's my choice to live in London. You'd pay me whether I live in London or on a boat outside of Newcastle. It doesn't really matter. I do the same work for the same client. That's just me, but thanks.
I shall move you to the UK banding.
And go backwards.
What is the reason for paying him more?
Maybe we do end up moving to two salary bands, and one is, are you prepared to travel to an office? Are you not prepared to travel to an office? Because actually that's the point of equality, or equity probably there.
So, fun point of contention. When I...
Is that a phrase he uses a lot? Fun point of contention.
It's always fun working with Tom.
Yes. I think it was a couple of months in that our client held a really big all-hands meeting, and that was in London, but it was all the way on the other side of London. It I think took me 2.5 hours, no, about 2 hours to get there through all the public transport. And I was asked to come in at 9 to the other side of London. And I was quite taken back. I went to my line manager at the time and I said, is there anything we can negotiate with the client that we won't come in at 9, but maybe a bit later? And it's just ridiculous. And my manager at the time said, well, it does stipulate in your contract that you are expected to go to the client. And so I did, but I wasn't happy about it at all.
Was this just one day, Tom?
It was just from 9 a.m. to 5, yes.
Tom, that's one day.
I know.
And you kicked off of it?
Oh, yes, because I was a remote worker, and I had not read that specific line in my contract that says... And also, I thought it was just on the edge of 30 miles as well. It was like 29 something. I was like, ah!
In fairness, I do kind of see Tom's point, because I would imagine that the 30 miles was probably a legacy from a northeast business, Leighton and Newcastle, and it wouldn't take you 2 hours to travel 30 miles in the northeast. So we probably wouldn't really have thought about the, I guess, the implications of that as we've rolled out to a more national team.
But it does highlight something else, which I feel that you're robust enough to handle what I'm about to say.
Yes, I think I am.
Which is, the dynamic has definitely changed. We're talking about work culture in terms of enlightened companies and enlightened bosses and the empowered workforce, particularly post-COVID. But are you just expecting too much? You know,
Possibly, yeah. I mean, in a world where everyone went to work every day, no matter how frickin' far it might be, yeah, I've become a bit spoiled by, the remote working conditions, 100%.
Do you think we'll ever return? Or do you think you're the future?
I think the data suggests, regurgitating stuff off LinkedIn, that companies who track back lose their best employees to the companies that don't. So I don't think we're going back. I think the companies that are rolling back into more office hours, in-office hours, are going to lose from that. So this is the future. The hybrid model or the completely remote model is here to stay.
So the way that Leighton's set up, so Northeast business, 60% of your team based in the Northeast here, yep. And then about 40% working remotely, so London, Manchester, Glasgow being the main yep. pockets. How do you make sure that the remote workers, Tom, you being one of them, based in London, have the same experience and feel that Leighton work culture in all of its glory, despite barely ever coming to the office?
I'll tell you how we try to do it. It might be interesting to hear Tom's perspective on whether that lands or not. So as I've said this, we work really hard to attract the right people. We absolutely try and tell them what the Leighton experience is going to be like before they start. So we want them to be clear on kind of our expectations, so that they don't come in and they're expecting something different to what we can deliver. First couple of weeks at Leighton, quite focused on onboarding, values, kind of communication channels, and then they're into the kind of the flow of work and their projects. Most teams will have a kind of a stand-up every day, so they'll kind of spend the first kind of 10, 15 minutes of the day with their team. Sometimes that'll include Leighton colleagues and sometimes it won't, but they're becoming part of a team there. Once a week we do a Leighton lowdown. Leighton lowdown's about half an hour. updating on the kind of the progress that we're making as a business, but there's some kind of less formal stuff, recognition, some social stuff that sits within that as well.
Did you say every week you do that?
We do that every week, yeah.
Every week?
Yeah.
So you've got the stand-up that's every day, so that's everybody plugged in at the same time, or certain groups?
In essence, it's everybody plugged in at the same time, but they're in their groups plugged in at that time. So typically there'll be 5 or 10 people in one group, another 5 people in another, 2 or 3 people in another. It's the teams that they're working with that kind of week. That's the stand-up, the lowdown every Friday, half an hour. Everybody's invited. Not everybody has to attend. It's not mandatory. We probably get 40, 50% each week. I guess we get sort of 70, 80% coverage across the business in a month. And that's kind of, as I said, business progress, social, kind of trying to hook them in. We do something called a community day, so we will go out into a location where we know we've got a lot of colleagues, rent an office for the day, do office stuff, work together during the day, and then do a social afterwards. And then 2 or 3 times a year we'll have kind of a more formal kind of company get together, normally here in Newcastle, where really that is the kind of the one mandatory event that we do. We probably get kind of 90% kind of attendance at that.
Why do you do it so often? You know, when people are saying about, oh, there's always too many meetings, always too many meetings, why don't you just pare that back?
Yeah, I think it's a really good challenge. In our business, stuff I feel, moves quite quickly, so I don't think we're ever kind of short of content. If we are, the meeting just becomes 15 minutes and not half an hour because we've gone around the kind of the screen, as it were, and there's not enough to kind of cover, and that's fine. People get the 15 minutes back. But invariably there's project updates, there's people wanting to do a shout out to a colleague who's really helped them. We maybe got some new starters to introduce. It's rare that we're short of content. I guess the why is to answer your original question, which was almost like, how do you keep people connected? How do you get them involved in the business? And this is one of the tools that we use to get them involved. It's quite interesting. I've only just seen the data, but we do an employee engagement survey twice a year. And we are able to assess in with that how kind of the people close to the office, close to Newcastle feel versus colleagues remotely. And the engagement level is exactly the same across the 2 cohorts now. It didn't used to be. There did used to be a disconnect between kind of the people further away and in the northeast, and now it's the same. So I think there's definitely something to take from what we're doing in terms of keeping people engaged.
And has that level of engagement risen from the remote workers or dropped from the locals?
Good question. It's risen in both counts. It's just risen quicker in the remote worker count.
So, does this fit with your experience? So this is the idea that comes top down. These are the things we're going to put in the diary for you. Then you're going to feel really part of a connected team, even though you are 300 odd miles away.
So this has been a really hot topic, I think, over the last 2 years. And we all work at home or in remote offices, often completely disconnected from Leighton because we're working with clients directly. And I remember at the beginning there could be maybe a month, 2 months can go by without me ever talking to a Leighton employee.
Because you're effectively working as a consultant.
Exactly.
So you're kind of embedded with the firm.
Exactly.
Right.
And so, Leighton has created multiple committees over a course of a year of trying to tackle those problems. I was constantly banging on saying, it's impossible to fix. I understand why it's important. I understand why we should try and make it more engaging, but it's really hard because we don't work together. There is no real visibility over what I do well and what I don't. They can only find out from what the client feeds back, and there is no effective tool of getting that feedback regularly and robustly because, well, they have other things to do than continuously give feedback for, 70 employees or so. So it's very challenging, I would say impossible. So this is the first time I hear about these stats changing, so kudos. Didn't think you could do it.
There is this challenge of how to unify that workforce, which increases loyalty, passes on the company values, yada, 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 all of that. But you really didn't think it was possible?
Because there is an intrinsic disconnect between what we do and who pays us to do the work. While I work for Leighton, I'm not doing Leighton's work. And there is no way, I don't feel like there is a real way for us to feel cohesive when we're not actually working together.
How does that make you feel as the boss?
Yeah, okay and not so okay. I think Tom's point is valid, and certainly when I've been in other businesses, the people that are doing the work are being managed by other people in the business. You're all in a team together, and that's not the case here. We're basically going in as consultants, and we are agreeing up front with the customer the work that we're going to deliver, and we're telling them we've got great qualified people to do that, and then Tom or other colleagues go off and do the work. And really part of the reason that you'd choose to work with a consultancy like Leighton is you just want the work done, you want it done to a high standard, you don't really want to get into people management or providing feedback. So I definitely accept that it is a lot harder in our business than it is in other businesses to kind of make people connected, because in essence we want Tom out there with the customer rather than sat in our business. That being said, as I've said, I think there's kind of lots of value in trying to hook Tom into these other things. We're going to do more stuff this year. We're going to create communities of practice in our business, which will give Tom another source of connecting with colleagues who are in the engineering space. And I guess by and large, if we do enough of these things, some of them will stick for the colleagues. So Tom might choose to be more engaged in the communities of practice, because that's going to help him a bit more with his career development. And perhaps he'll be a bit less engaged in some of the social things, because he doesn't need them. He's got lots of social stuff going on outside of work.
Another part of the hybrid working environment, of course, is if you don't have a home office.
Yes. So I think most of us at Leighton do prefer to work from home, the remote ones. But between getting hired and actually starting the job, my situation at home quite changed to the point that I was unable to work at home anymore. It was just too difficult, and had to get a rental office. And so I asked before starting if they would allow me to rent a desk in like a WeWork or something similar. And if they'll be willing to contribute to that. And so we've come to an agreement. It was very nice of them, because they absolutely did not have to. I already signed a contract to agree to pay for half of it. So ever since starting, I've been working in an office, in a shared desk. And you might say, but why then do you want to work in a hybrid situation if you want to work with that? Because it's 5 minutes away from my house, and I don't have to do a morning commute, and I get to work next to my friend, who's also a developer, but for a different company. And so I've kind of created a little heaven around my house, and with the help of Leighton.
You accepted paying half, and this is in London, so this desk rental is going to be considerably more than it might be elsewhere in the UK. Yeah,
that's probably true. Ultimately, we want to attract great talent. We want to retain great talent. We have a policy at Leighton which is not actually remote working, it's kind of flexible choice, which is about enabling people to choose where they're going to do their best work. Sometimes that might be the office, sometimes that might be at home, sometimes it might be a customer's site, but it's all about giving the colleague the choice. And for me, we've gone to the trouble of finding Tom. We believe he's great talent. He's now telling us that actually where he's going to do most of his great work is going to be in this shared office environment. We want to support him to do that, and actually what we ended up with is a compromise that works for both of us. He pays some of it and we pay some of it.
What if he chooses quite a high-end office?
That's probably a slightly different conversation.
So you have put James on the ropes a few times.
So I wanted to take about 6 months away, unpaid, to do my big travel in Asia, something I wanted to do for years. And I worked out that the best way for me to do that without hurting Leighton was to find someone to fill my place. So I had heard from a colleague that took my place in my last workplace. I helped hire him, that he was kind of ready to move on or ready to start looking for new opportunities. And so I started guiding him into all the necessary technology that he needs in order to fit right in to where I was sitting.
You're like a weird puppet master.
The way I saw it is I was giving him the opportunity that I needed at his place. I was filling in a blank that I knew Leighton would have should I leave. I was basically making sure that everyone involved is happy with my decision to leave.
Everyone's a winner.
Everyone's a winner. That's what I was trying to get.
Okay.
And as James knows, I like to go into a negotiation giving an easy yes, letting them have an easy yes. So that's how I went with it. I gave him an easy yes. I wanted him to not be able to say no.
You already have a scheme set up for that type of thing, don't you?
Yeah, we have a recommend a colleague scheme. I can't remember the exact numbers, but we paid kind of hundreds of pounds if somebody recommends a colleague. Needless to say, Tom wanted a little bit more than that.
I mean, everyone wins, but I want to win some too.
I heard that the amount is £500.
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
And I heard that Tom asked for a lot more than that.
Yeah, I think I asked for 2.5.
That is how I remember it as well. I got this, I'm going to say, beautifully crafted email from Tom. What would you say if, I found you a person who I would stand behind, B, made sure they were kind of trained up and ready to go and would mentor them, and all you need to pay for this is £2,500.
In comparison to how much you would pay a recruiter, probably 2-3 times more than that.
Absolutely, yes. I missed out that crucial part.
That was important.
To Tom's point, it was a really easy decision. We've got a scheme in place. Actually, he's given me a bit better than that because he already knows this person really well. He's going to bring them in and he's going to train and mentor them. So it is an easy decision for me to say yes to that.
But you also gave him some advice after it, didn't you?
I did tell him that I would have probably paid quite a lot more money for the same service that he'd provided. He also then offered me the fact that he would have accepted quite a lot less money for the service that he was providing. So I think we're both probably happy with where we settled. And actually, it was, again, quite feedback's a gift. It was quite an enlightening moment for us to be able to say, let's change that scheme that we've got in place, because we obviously would pay more. We've introduced a new scheme where we do pay quite a lot more.
And that's credit to my employer. I mean, they saw that. I mean, I guess I exploited kind of that gap between what they were offering and what they normally pay, and kind of came in the middle. But they saw that as an opportunity to go, well, why is Tom special? He's not. Everyone can actually effectively do the same thing, and they made it company-wide. And I think that's one of the amazing things at Leighton is, I mean, I didn't even give that as feedback. I just tried to get more money out of them, but they just went and said, oh, actually, this is something we can improve on. So credit to you and the senior leadership team.
I guess it's what I mean when I said earlier on that, like, great people challenge you and make you better. That's, to me, is a really good example of that. If Tom hadn't been prepared to challenge us, we wouldn't have made things better for the rest of the team. So.
How can you not be loyal to a company like that?
Let's talk loyalty.
Yeah.
Because you have put a lot of requests onto the CEO of your company. And every one of those will in many ways affect budgets.
Yep.
If you're taking a little bit money out of the pot, somebody else or another faction might have less to spend, and so on. It really does have that level of impact. How do you balance the business needs with those of employees? Because you can't say yes to everything, no matter how beautifully crafted the letter is.
It's a really good question. I think my answer to that is, broadly, try and focus on what you know is the right thing to do. I often kind of say that I want to win, and by that I mean I want to deliver the budget that we've kind of set out to deliver. I want to do better than that and get the pat on the back. We talked about acknowledgement earlier, and that's important to me as well. But it's not at all costs. Some things are worth kind of sacrificing that goal for. And really broadly, if you employ some really great people, if you empower them to do really great work, they will deliver for the customer far better than average people delivering average work. And I guess what I'm banking on is that money comes back in a different way further down the line. So we're able to do another project for the customer that we maybe hadn't budgeted on doing, and that's where it will get back to us. And I would guess that by and large throughout my career, we've had some years where we've been a bit up and we've had some years where we've been a bit down, but by and large we'll have ended in the right place.
Let's end on work culture. Any red flags for you, I would say, as an employee, past experience looking at businesses, and do's and don'ts? So from your own experience running a company, or maybe from looking at your peers, things that you think that is a brilliantly working and tested idea.
At the end of the day, I'm heard, and I think that's something that not every employer can say that they do and really listen. And I think with all the challenges I put forth in Leighton weren't unreasonable, most of them. And I've made sure they were reasonable most of the time. And they've met me. And so I feel like I was respected and I wasn't just told no for the sake of saying no or for the sake of parity or things like that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Leighton is actually really high up there with retaining their employees. Yeah,
our attrition rate is basically 10%, and I think kind of current averages are something like 20 to 30%. I think at the time I quoted 15%, and I was wrong. It's actually higher than that. And I think, hopefully that is partly to do with the culture that we've created.
That speaks volumes. People want to stay, and
there's probably a load of different ways that you could do good culture. Listening to kind of Tom, I actually think maybe what a good culture looks like is being clear on your expectations and delivering on your expectations. So I think we've probably been clear to Tom that we talk about our curiosity inspiring the amazing, and we talk about that meaning lots of questions. So actually we've set an expectation for Tom that we want questions, we want kind of challenge. But having set that expectation, we absolutely have to deliver on it for then Tom to kind of buy in and trust us. But somebody else could have a culture where questions are not encouraged, and that's fine as long as they're clear on that at the start, and therefore they attract people who don't want to ask lots of questions and don't want to challenge. And maybe it works at Leighton because we're clear on what we expect. People come in expecting that, and then we're able to deliver on it.
Did you tell Tom to expect that the weather would be good if he came to Newcastle?
I did not tell him that, so
no
therefore...
one ever told me that.
he didn't ask those questions, he didn't qualify the opportunity.
We've got this beautiful view and we can't see anything at all. It's just torrential rain.
It is miserable today, and probably is miserable most of the time you come to...
You'll add it in post, though, right?
Yeah, we'll just... Oh, it's all going to look fabulous, don't we?
Thanks, guys, for being so frank with our discussion today. James Bunting and Tom Shanan of Leighton. Now, together, you've provided the evidence for the phrase shy Bens get knout. I don't know about you, but my mind is blown on how best to negotiate a better salary, perks, and workload. The key is knowing your value to that business. At the same time, not having a pushover as a boss, but someone who has clear boundaries, who really listens to their staff and acts on it, changing policies and showing appreciation for building a loyal, talented team. and that benefits everyone. So however and wherever you're listening or watching Both Sides of the Desk, thank you. This is all about sharing ideas to create a more positive work culture for everyone. So please subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends and colleagues. Data shows that positive work culture boosts productivity, reduces staff turnover, and makes people happier. What's not to love? Well, we'd love you to join the conversation too. Drop us a message on the socials for Newcastle Helix, whether that's LinkedIn, X, Facebook, Instagram, or the YouTube channel. We are all about collaboration here. So on that note, this video podcast was filmed with the help of the incredible team at the Lumen building on the Newcastle Helix site. It was filmed and directed by Chris Taylor, filmed and edited by Jordan McDonald, mixed and mastered by Andy at Blast Studios, and produced and presented by me, Charlie Charlton. The concept emerged in collaboration with Di Gates of Connection Heroes. This is a development program all about the value of human connection at work. So coming up in the next episode of Both Sides of the Desk,
there's the connections element, and there's also a certain amount of polish that you get trained into you more.
from the happy team here at Newcastle Helix, see you next time.